everyone. Ariel Adams here with Superlative Podcast. Please listen to aBlogtoWatch's other podcast, aBlogtoWatch Weekly, where we talk about the latest watch news and reviews. Today on Superlative, my guest is Pascal Brandt. He is a longtime journalist and communication professional within the watch industry. He spent many years doing PR at a variety of impressive brands. He is someone that if you worked with him, you know, he's sort of the Swiss Army knife. He's able to get a variety of things done. He's an internal fixer and connector, and he's still a consultant at Parmigiani, where he has worked with the CEO Guido there and previously at BVLGARI. Pascal, welcome.
Hello, welcome, Ariel. Thank you very much to be there with me. Hi, everyone, from La Chaux-de-Fonds, Neuchâtel Canton, Switzerland, one of the hearts of Swiss watchmaking industry historically. Very gloomy Sunday morning here. I prefer to be in California.
You're a lot. You and a lot of other people, and in California, it's been lovely. But you make La Chaux-de-Fonds, I think, a little bit sunnier, because when I think about meeting with you, you've always been a bright light, right? At Basel World, when things were crazy, we knew that we would go to the BVLGARI booth and meet with you. Things were going to be okay. So you always made sure that people felt very, very good. How many years have you been working at brands, not just in the industry, but internally at brands? Do you know offhand how many years?
Yes, I left watch journalism late 92, early 93, late 2000, early 2001 to join Officine Panerai in Milano, Italy, upon the request of Franco Cologni. At the time, Cologni was number 2 of the Richemont Group, was number 2 of Cartier, and he was my mentor, if I may say. So from early 22, I jumped into brands, Panerai first, then Cologni transferred me to Vacheron Constantin. Then after Vacheron, I had a quick jump at De Witt, yes. But in the meantime, BVLGARI was chasing me. It was in 2006. They were chasing me because they were intending to push the watch activities, to frame the watch activities, but unfortunately didn't work on their side at that time. And in 2009, BVLGARI came back to me. I just got a call from the sales boss at that time, Umberto Macchi. He called me early August. Ciao Pascal, you remember me? We met in 2006 at the BVLGARI booth in Basel. Come to Rome, late August. I want to see you. Okay, so I went to Rome. We had dinner in Rome, old part of the city close to BVLGARI HQ. And he said, okay, tomorrow you meet HR, you meet the boss of communications. Have a good evening. Bye-bye. So I met those people the next day. Okay, so we prepare a contract for you. Okay, nice. And I went back to Switzerland, and the next week, I was invited to meet the HR in Neuchâtel, BVLGARI Watch HQ and perfumes as well. I made the HR director. Okay, strange. I have a contract for you. You have to sign it. No job description, nothing. Please sign it. You start next week. And the following week, I went to BVLGARI in Neuchâtel, and Alessandro Bolliolo and Guido Terreni were waiting for me. Bolliolo is actually the president of the board of Audemars Piguet. He was number 2 of BVLGARI at that time, chief operating officer for the group. And I'm so happy to meet you. Let's start. So we have a big project. We will drive Genta Haute Manufacture under the BVLGARI umbrella. You remember that moment? So
yeah, of course.
You are here to develop the strategy for that. Okay, when? January. Okay. So I started to work on that project. I met the late Francesco Trapani, who passed away a few days ago, unfortunately. Brilliant guy.
Too bad.
Yeah. And in January, the announcement was done. Genta wrote, from now, pass on under the BVLGARI umbrella. Was my first job, but challenging. Then I spent years at BVLGARI, especially on communications, but PR, until late 21. And early 22, I joined Parmigiani Fleurier. Guido Terreni was connected to me, asking me to join him. I had to decide. BVLGARI was amazing, 12, 13 years among the best in my professional life in a company. And I decided to join Parmigiani, which is a challenging brand, you know it perfectly. And since I'm consultant there.
So I think that's an incredible career history of being in brands and an amazing diversity of things. One of the things that I noticed was how you were chased by BVLGARI, and then you met with a lot of different people there and signed multiple contracts and stuff like that. And my question is, are all PR people in demand that way? Is that the process of hiring all PR people, where there's multiple people that are met, different contracts, different cities you go to? That seems like either you had a very special position or there's a very complex way of hiring at BVLGARI. Which was it?
It's a difficult question because I think on the PR side, communication side in this industry today, it's totally different than at that time.
Tell me how.
Regarding my experience, I would say I had a reputation when they chased me at that time as a journalist. I was among the top worldwide journalists regarding the watch industry. Of course, at that time too, no internet, almost nothing, no digital, no influencers. There was no such an attraction about the concept of the so-called luxury as we can see it by today. So it was totally different. But I had a reputation. I was the only one accepted by Rolex in the 90s. They were speaking to one journalist per market, Rolex, at that time. Heiniger and the team.
Interesting.
Yeah, Dominique Tadion, Duchesne, you remember them. And Rolex, they chose me because they tracked me, they followed me, what I was writing. And one day they called me and said, listen, Pascal, we want to meet you. You will be the one we speak to in Switzerland. And they was proceeding like that on every market in the world. So I had a reputation, and this, of course, contributed for sure to the approach by BVLGARI, for sure. Yep.
And what did a PR person do at the time? It sounded like there was a huge responsibility to actually get awareness, just general awareness and storytelling out there. How did the PR role, in the 1990s especially, how was it very different than it is today? Because I imagine it's a very different job.
I think it's different. You're totally right. Regarding BVLGARI at that time, you remember this Italian brand, which is a jeweler, basically, and still today. They were producing watches, but there was no, let's say, such an edgy marketing approach as it is by now. They were producing watches, selling watches through the distribution channels, boutique, but no frame. So my task was to, now we integrate Genta and Roth. We will have movements genuine substance in our watches, not only état movements, which are, by the way, super good. And that's why they hired me. So my job was, but I was very free, independent, to raise awareness, to explain the move of Bulgari watches and watch division, but in a perfect spirit of independence. And they trusted me, and that's it. Now, today, of course, if we compare, it's very difficult for a PR person to find a job, more difficult than at that time, because you have hundreds of PR on the market looking for luxury. You know, everyone is looking for the stars which are shining in the sky. So, which are they? High-end brands. There is an attraction towards those top-end brands, shining stars. But for one position, you have 200 candidates. It was not the case at that time. But additionally, you need also to be recognized as a professional, to be recognized as someone who can be trusted, who is not, sorry for the wording, a bullshitter, because this has been also a big move in this industry during the last years, storytelling and so on. And finally, it's empty speech and wording. So you need to have those values and qualities. And of course, most importantly, you need to respect the person you speak to, and you need to build your credibility. It's a matter of relationship. This is really the key.
What I've always found odd, first of all, thank you for that. What I found so odd is I fully agree with you, but the person that you're painting a picture of is often a mature person who has experience and connections and a lot of sort of diverse skills. Many of today's PR people are absolutely entry level, right? They couldn't be younger or fresher. They seem to be the exact opposite. When did that shift happen from PR being a senior or at least managerial level position to an entry level one?
It's difficult also to reply to you. Me, I think that today you have lots of PR persons which are simply kind of relays between the speech which is decided by the head of the brand with pressure to find storytelling, which is a kind of obsession, storytelling. By today, finally, what does the final client, collector, aficionado wants? He wants to hear about the product, because when you are ready to spend 50K on a watch, first you want to hear about the watch. And this side of the communications today, PR-wise, but communication-wise also, more widely, has been a little bit diluted, 50K watch, but you hear about things which are not related at all to the product. So there has been a move really during the last years. Now, senior versus junior or entry, matter of respect you can get from the people you speak to, you have spoken to. My advantage has been, and still is, I think, the fact that I go beyond pure public relations. I know this industry. I'm interested by the move of the business, the global landscape, what's happening here and in Hong Kong or China as too. So it gives another dimension, I think.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, for me, it should be a given that if you work in this industry, you like this industry. But I think you helped me realize years ago, and I think you may have told me that, it's like, hey, Ariel, just so you know, a lot of the people in the industry don't actually like watches like you and me. And I was like, what? Really? How is that even possible? And, you did mention that, and you were right. And you can tell very quickly when you're in a meeting with someone if they genuinely like watches, or if they have sort of a speech to tell and they're waiting to get out of the meeting and they would rather be talking about anything else. I have always found it amazing that there's people in the watch industry that don't like watches. I don't know why they do it.
I don't know. It's a matter of passion and enthusiasm, Personally, me, I love watches and watch industry more globally because I think it's a really amazing object. It's an amazing object, the watch. So anyone will tell you, my God, such emotion, it's emotional, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it is, of course. But I think it goes even further than that. If I don't have a watch on my wrist, I don't feel well.
Yeah.
I don't feel well. It's a matter of passion for a small diameter of amazing knowledge. Not only history, but skills, knowledge.
It's a whole culture. I mean, that's what I describe it. Watches is a full culture with many disciplines and many types of academics and many histories and many specialities and many ways of liking it. It's a robust culture, and you have to be into that culture.
Yes, definitely. What we see today, this was my point this year. At Watches and Wonders, and before Watches and Wonders, preparing it for Parmigiani Fleurier. What I noticed, so it's obvious today, and for you, for many people, but what I noticed is these emerging clubs of collectors, watch clubs. Yeah. They exist since a few years. But for me today, it's like a revelation, in this world which is made of Instagrammers. Everyone is posting here and there. One day it's a slice of pizza. The next day it's a watch on the wrist. But they are named influencers. All the brands are looking for them, the so-called influencers. My point, by the way, is what's the power of influence of 90% of those people? Question mark. But the watch clubs, and I met many this year at Watches and Wonders. I'm connected to some of them in Europe, in Asia as well. Those are probably the real influencers today, because can be a club of 10 people, 10 persons, all crazy with watches. One brand, one type of complication, or general high-end watches, for instance, or chronographs, thematic. Or it can be 900, 1,000 members, Hong Kong Watch Club, another example. I was connected to them. Or I met last winter in the Philippines club, 70 persons. The point is, they are all enthusiasts. They don't know very often each other personally, but they post, and they are all interconnected. A guy posts in the Philippines about a model, a brand which is underrated, underestimated, and suddenly he gets a message from, I don't know, Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe Watch Club. We don't know each other, but I saw this model, fantastic. Can you plug me? Can you connect me? I want to, you see what I mean? And they are real prescripteurs, as we say in French, and so real influencers.
I'm so delighted that you've been fascinated by that area of the culture. I've also been noticing the emergence of the watch clubs, and have been equally fascinated in my own way. And I agree that they're They were unpredictable. I never would have seen this coming 20 years ago. And now that it's here, it's forced me to ask a lot of questions. What is this all about? And what I've realized it represents is this one major shift. The major shift is this. When you and I got into watches, we got into these objects alone. Nowadays, there's a new option. Get into watches together with other people. The one thing that most of these people have in common is they're at a similar level in their collecting journey. They're learning together. They're helping to teach each other new things. We used to do Google searches or go to the fairs or find those brands that we didn't know about and learn more. Today, it's a matter of being part of a group, and they do some of that work for you. Everybody discovers a little bit and they share it, which means that everybody knows a lot. And they speed up the ability to consume watch culture from years to maybe months. And that's great for the industry because that means people know more, therefore they can appreciate more and they will buy more. Because without these clubs, too many people, in my opinion, would only be in to the very basic brands, the ones that everyone knows. And yes, of course, Rolex and all that does well, but we have this amazing emergence and popularity for independence. And Pascal, I think you'll agree, a lot of it has to do with the speed at which people can learn about stuff through these clubs. I might write an article. You might get a great story written somewhere. But if it isn't for these people hyper sharing with one another, our information, the stories that we help tell, would never get shared. And that's why they're amazing to me.
Yes. No, you're totally right. I'm always surprised by the level of knowledge of these groups, whatever, wherever they are, level of knowledge, the interest into watches. They are always very open-minded, curious. There is not so much interest in, let's say, the watch business markets and so on. No, it's focused really on the product, on the watch.
Oh yeah, and these are consumers. These aren't people like us that want to work in the industry. They just want to buy this stuff and like it.
Yeah, and it goes alongside also this move, this trend of these emerging newcomer brands, micro brands, niche brands. You have so many coming on the market actually. It's crazy, and very often with a strong added value in terms of content, movement, design, decorative and craftsmanship skills. And those clubs are very stuck to these newcomers. A lot, because many of them told me, at Parmigiani this year, Watches and Wonders, we welcomed many of those clubs. They wanted to see Parmigiani, to touch it. And I was speaking with them, and many of them also told me, it's a common point, told me, Nautilus, but not interested. I don't want to speak about that. I'm not interested. Oh, AP Royal Oak? No way. We want small, exclusive, added value, small brands, niche brands, micro brands, because they are out of the mainstream. And they look for something which are very often out of the mainstream. Doesn't mean that they don't have interest in Daytona or Nautilus, the late Nautilus, but many of them, they look for small brands which bring something which is not part of the dominating major brands / models, which were the kings of the market for the last decades.
Yeah, I totally agree. And when I ask them about it, I think what I realize is for them, it's a lot like the art market. They are looking for the sort of new up-and-comer. They feel that if they do that, they'll look cooler. They'll get good values, right? Because some of the newer brands tend to be maybe sometimes less expensive than they become. You don't have to be in this industry for very long before you realize there's a very fast upward trajectory of pricing.
Exactly.
Brands start at one amount and they go up. It's usually not the other way around. No one starts at like $100,000 and then a few years the watches are $10,000. No, it always goes the other way. And I think a lot of people, they recognize that the mainstream watches are very expensive. And so they believe if I want a new watch, probably the best way of getting good value is from an untested brand.
Yes.
And I think that's a big part of it. Also, as you know, if you are learning about the hobby with friends, it becomes very boring if everyone has the same watch. So if everyone has like the Rolex, the Omega, you know, the Audemars Piguet and the Patek Philippe, it's just like, okay, guys, now what? And so watch collecting is a sort of a journey. And people say like, you know, Ariel, what's your Grail watch? I'm like, if I had a Grail watch, that means my hobby would be done. Yes. I'd be like, that's it. If I had that watch, I'm good. No more watches. But that's not the way it is. It's a journey of looking and searching. And so they don't want their ultimate watch. They want to discover a lot of watches along the way. And I think that, at least from our perspective, it's so great to see this psychology because we're seeing the living and breathing corpus of watch consumer. These people, even though they're just a few that we meet, they represent how hundreds and thousands and maybe millions of people are buying watches. And that's what makes this industry go around. And so for me as a focus group, wow, these people are so valuable to hang out with.
Yeah, true. And just an anecdote, one of these guys, I was speaking with him a few months ago. He has a Nautilus. And your Nautilus, all fine, you wear it on a daily basis, weekly basis. And he replied to me, no, it's in the safe. I don't wear it anymore. Yeah, why? Because when I fly EasyJet, you know, EasyJet, low-cost company in Europe, everyone has a Nautilus on the wrist. So for me, I forget it. I keep it in my safe, of course, but I don't wear this watch anymore. It's funny, no? Funny anecdote, but it's a good picture of this trend, which is still not really formally defined, but which is there. This for sure. And additionally, of course, when we speak about those watch clubs, we speak about young people. These are not clubs gathering guys in their 70s or 60s, or it's young people.
But those guys that age are in some of these clubs. That's not to say it's just a young person game. There are many people in their 20s and 30s, absolutely. But the mature collector is definitely not represented. They're in there.
Yes. Yeah. No, of course. But the choice of the scope is between those different generations for the youngest to go towards those alternative brands, which are not mainstream. Okay, they love the Speedmaster, for sure, me too, by the way. But they seek for an alternative, definitely. And we see it at Parmigiani, but not only us. All the equivalent brands, they are facing exactly the same trend.
Movado has been making watches for well over 100 years. It all started in 1881 in Chaux-de-Fonds, Switzerland. At the beginning of the 20th century, Movado started producing hundreds of wristwatch models, while other companies were still focused on pocket watches. Early watch designs often eschewed round cases for alternative shapes. Square-shaped wristwatches were an immediate hit with consumers from the very beginning. As early as 1917, Movado was releasing square watches at the outset of the Art Deco era just before the Roaring '20s. Today, Movado honors that legacy with the new Heritage 1917 collection of men's and women's timepieces drawn directly from the authentic 1917 design. The Movado Heritage 1917 family of wristwatches features a variety of styles, including automatic mechanical movements in all of the 35mm wide versions. Inspired by the past, but faithful to modern expectations, the 1917 watches feature classic, legible dials, modest wearing proportions, and are available in a men's 35mm wide size and a women's 25mm wide size, as well as a choice of bracelet or strap attachment options. Designed with all wearers in mind, the Heritage 1917 is nevertheless an enthusiast product featuring design excellence and Swiss-made mechanisms. Check out the Movado Heritage 1917 watches at department stores, select jewelers, or online at movado.com. Now, one of the things that you've been very close to in your time is how the management perceives PR and marketing and things like that. And I've always noticed this sort of struggle. There's a huge need for PR and marketing and advertising and communication and everything that goes under that umbrella. Yet it seems to be the first place that brands cut from, or the moment they're doing well, they seem to think like, hey, should we be spending this much money in communication? How can you explain this sort of love-hate relationship that brands have with this such a necessary function of their company?
Yes. So for me, through my experience, I would say PR, advertising, communications, let's say, globally speaking, are fine when the business is fine. But of course, when the business environment becomes really tight, crispy as it is now, the first positions to be cut, budgets-wise, are all these communication activities, because it's very easy, can be done fast, and finally you are requested to produce results with nothing. So you have to think a little bit, and for me, I feel pretty comfortable in this actual environment, because back to what I said before, I have plenty of connections. I can action them personally, on a personal base, and it helps. When you don't have that, it's more difficult. And everyone will be complaining, we don't have budget, blah, 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 blah. Yes, it's more difficult, but you can do things still based on, not on the budget only, based on the trustful relationship you have.
Now, that sounds like you being very, very resourceful, which is great. And not everyone is. And that's obviously why you're very good at your job. But you agree that from a managerial standpoint and other stakeholders, it's a quick thing to cut. And what I've always seen is that it just makes you bleed faster. Like if you're doing bad, cutting awareness, cutting the engine, which tells people about your story and gets them excited about it, that just speeds up your blood loss. Do they not see it that way?
Yes, hopefully, or maybe for me it's a challenge, this situation. I prefer that personally, to be challenged and to find replies and solutions and ways to do my job, rather than in a very comfy situation. You have a big budget, you can spend here, there, you are sure that, okay, it's fine too, for sure, for anyone. But for me, I don't feel uncomfortable in that situation, actually. Not at all. You know, we can action, but of course you have tensions always in the companies between the management, budget cuts, which start always by communications, always, because it's really the easiest way. Me, I defend the opposite. Always I did that. I always said that rather than to cut and reduce exposure, visibility during those times, the brands and companies should do the opposite, to keep it running,
to do
and
more.
Working. Or to do more, exactly. Yeah, me, that's my position on this. Yeah.
So here's why I think this is going to become even bigger of an issue. And it has to do with the women's side of the market. And I'll explain why this is, why I think that is. The episode that people may have heard just before this one should have been, if we release these in chronological order, is with Jean-Christophe, the CEO of BVLGARI, who used to work for. And he said something very interesting, that they are really doubling down on in the development of not just more women's watches, but the industrial capacity to make women's movements. And they want to make serious women's watches a really big part of Bulgari. I think that makes sense. Now, what I realized about women's luxury is that even more so than men, it needs to be communicated.
Yeah.
It needs to be marketed so much longer, so much harder. And so the culture of being very lean, advertising just a little bit, yeah, that can get away with some of the men who like saying like, I only like the very hard to find luxury and stuff like that. Yeah, they get away with that. But women, no. You know, the Hermès stuff, which does really well, it is advertised like crazy. The Cartier stuff, which does really well, it is advertised like crazy. You cannot make the argument that discreet marketing works at all for the women's category. So I'm wondering how they're going to reconcile this sort of thriftiness around marketing with this focus on the women's watch market that many of the companies, I'm sure you'll agree, are interested in.
So I think, first of all, it depends on the brand. And you rightly said, speaking about Bulgari, that it fits Bulgari. Because for such a brand, women has always been at the heart of Bulgari. Jewelry, of course. And now for watches, what Jean-Christophe said, I think he's, by the way, the top driver of this industry. Jean-Christophe Babin today, no doubt.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt. But for Bulgari, the move is, you mentioned, to increase the internal capacities in terms of movements. For women's watches, the small, round mechanical movement for Serpenti, for instance. But it's part probably of a wider move in this company and group, which is to feed on a transversal mode. The brands under Jean-Christophe's responsibility. You have Hublot, you have Zenith, you have Tiffany, he's not in charge of, but you have Bulgari, of course, and the decision has been announced to use Zenith capacities to become a kind of industrial movements, basis to serve transversally different brands in this pool. Now, more globally, in the past, women's watches were derivated from men's watches. Okay, let's do a women's collection, reducing the size, diameter. It was the most simple way to work for watch companies. And then, no question, we do it and we sell to female clients. Now, I think women's watches are part of a more serious concern in the watch brands. I remember Gérard Perregaux, Macaluso, who 30 years ago was saying that women's were at the heart of the watchmaking also. He was right. But of course, depends on the brand. When you handle a very technical brand, difficult. You have a male, masculine connotation image. It's difficult to enter this market. Now, it's also true that it depends on the market. Go to Middle East, UAE, and this area. Maybe is it more sensitive, but always depend on the brand, to, let's say, female creation, watch creations, than on other markets like Europe. But I repeat one more time, depend on the brand. The Rolex 36, they just fit female wrists, no problems. You see it on female wrists in Europe, in Asia, in the US, everywhere. Not all the brands can do that, huh? But it's a matter of brand, I think, parameters regarding women's watches, brand. spirit, history of the brand, Bulgari typically fits perfectly. Some others too. Markets, areas.
I think that you and I will both be very interested to see the trajectory of women's watches, because I believe that the next 5 to 10 years will see women's watches taking forms that maybe you and I have never seen before in our time. And I think that'll be fascinating.
Maybe. But back to Bulgari, because it's a super good example. Look, Serpenti, what can be done with Serpenti? Tubogas, basic, relaunched by Guido in 2010, up to Serpenti, super high jewelry with a small mechanical movement. There is a range of expressions which is amazing at Bulgari. Not all the brands can do that.
No, I agree that women's watches is definitely not something for all brands, but I think it's definitely the case with a lot of different types of products. Brands want to sell watches, but they very rarely ask themselves, what makes sense from us? What can we do that the public will expect, that will buy into? They often want to jump onto trends, which is why they all seem to have the same complications, the same materials, the same sizes. Yes, there's some aesthetic differences, but consumers don't necessarily want that. They want brands to assert themselves through a specific personality. They want to know what they're particularly good at. Obviously, there's a lot of generalist brands out there, but I think that brands, I agree, they have to say, what can we do to make an impact, rather than what trend do we want to jump to? When we see brands jumping on a trend, they don't do as well as when they're inventing something brand new, right?
Yeah. So when you say we see brands jumping on a trend, I would say first that despite what is always said in this industry and community, the watchmaking industry is not so creative as it pretends to be.
That's true.
For sure. Why? Take the case of rose gold cases. 15, 20 years ago, the rose gold came in the industry, replacing yellow gold, except for 1-2 brands well, they still produce yellow gold. But rose gold, 1 or 2 brands launched that. The neighbor is looking to what the competitor is doing. Oh, they come with rose gold. Let's go with that. And everyone follows. It's the same actually with the dial colors. It's not because I'm Parmigiani, even as consultant, but look what Tereni did with the colors of the dials. Okay, Le Corbusier palette, but very soft, smooth pastel colors, going to light green, going to pinkish dials. Look, not now, the other brands, many are following. Many. Everyone is spying what the neighbor is doing and flair. There is something, he did that brand, there is something, let's go there too. And then everyone goes.
But that's weird when the consumers don't want that. What the consumers want, at least what they say they want, is personality and distinction. These iconic watches, they're iconic because you can tell them across the room and they don't look like something else. They wouldn't be an icon if they were trying to copy a generic look, right?
No, correct. The case of the concept of iconic watch also, it's pretty interesting because today in the global general speech, everyone says, oh, iconic. Look, Grand Prix d'Horlogerie de Genève.
It's their favorite word now.
Yeah, everyone speaks about iconic watches. Iconic model, rather.
It used to be heritage, and before that it was extreme.
So, what is an iconic watch? First of all, it's not a brand. It's a model. I want a Speedmaster. I need a Reverso. I would like a Royal Oak. I love the tank, Cartier. Okay. An iconic watch for me is a model, whatever the brand is, which has benefits of a very long life cycle, decades.
Which is why I hate when they say new icon. This is the new, you just came out with this watch, it's an icon? How is that possible?
No. An icon watch is set after decades, very often.
Decades.
And
Decades.
you have today, you have less than 10 genuine icons. Some are coming, of course, now. Among them who claim to launch an iconic watch model. They are icons to be, but let's wait maybe 25 years.
But why, Pascal, do brands want icons so badly? It's nice to have one. I know you can build a whole brand around it, Audemars Piguet, but why do they, it's not necessary, and why would you try to speed that up? It's like saying, we started last year, we have a 100-year history. No, you don't. Why are you pretending? That's my, why must they have icons? They don't actually need it.
No, I think it's a matter of market competition. Today, the competition in this industry is crazy, of course. You have all the historical, long-lasting brands, whatever is their position, top end, entry, mid-range, whatever. Okay. And to those now, you can add all these newcomers, being sure that they are creating, even if they are 3 years old, a summit in watchmaking. Many of them, they bring something, yes. Contents, design, value for money, whatever. Some of them, no. But competition is crazy, and especially for those young brands, let's say, you have to find your place in the market and in the retailer's shop, in the display. Shall I be on the corner where nobody goes? Or shall I be on the top level in the display on the Fifth Avenue? Or it's a struggle for life every day for those brands, which have to compete with well-established. So, of course, the icon can be a tentative key to find a position in this market which is overrepresented today. Adding that beside Switzerland, now look at Japan, look at China, mainland China as well. You have brands. They know, especially mainland China, knows how to produce high-end watches, complications, movements, craftsmanship. They can do it and compete. Their problem is on the marketing side, mass production culture, like Seiko was in the past. Now you have Grand Seiko. Grand Seiko became something which is super interesting as well. But I think for me, the icon obsession is due to this competition.
In the 1990s, was it as competitive? It doesn't seem as though it was, but I wasn't in the industry at the time. I don't know. Compare the competitiveness of the industry today, which I agree is very competitive, with what it was like 30, 35 years ago.
Was pretty different, of course. At that time, no internet. Forget it. So what was the watch industry? Communication-wise, it was advertising and merchandising material. Display in a showcase. Okay, that's it. Distribution. What was it? Independent brands, most of them, having agents, the middleman, the agent, feeding the retailers network. This has disappeared. It's finished today, But compared to that time today, what did we see? Distribution totally reworked, revised, smashed, exploded in different levels, categories, point of connections, thanks to the internet, thanks to the competition. Communication, you know it perfectly better than me. Today, advertising, print, my gosh, it costs a fortune for the brands. Okay, some continue to do it because they still trust. But what are the channels? It's Instagram, it's web, it's e-commerce. Distribution-wise, web, digital, direct approach, lots of boutique for many brands. So it became totally different, but maybe less simple than at the time when the chain was really simple. Huh? Brand, agent, retailers, final client, finito. Today, it's not like that anymore. You have to find new ways. You have some brands selling only via the social media, small, very high-end brands. I won't mention them, but you know them. No retailer. You have brands which open boutique like crazy. They are closing some of the other shops today due to the situation, especially in China, mainland. It's a very organic level part of that business, which is moving very fast compared to 30 years ago, where everything was, in French we say, gravé dans le marbre, engraved in marble.
What has stayed the same? Obviously, the industry is very different in a lot of ways, but what's similar? What do you recognize today that would have been similar in the 1990s?
So, of course, in Switzerland, pride, of course, of the skills to be preserved. It has been the case. Today, this competition, which is, let's say, the negative part side of the business, is balanced also by the research of new technologies, by the reactivation of ancient skills which disappeared, which are highlighted today, but in the past there was no interest anymore for those skills. Think about enamel, even if you had always enameled watches, especially on the Geneva side. But all this has contributed, this competition has contributed to really to push the brands, companies and industry to refresh creativity, skill, expertise. For me, it's a good point. You know, competition is always good, especially when it's fierce, because the best will remain. But many of those newcomers within 2 years will have disappeared. You have to, when you launch a brand, you don't need 300 years of history. You can start from scratch now, but product, you have to reassure also your target. Okay, I have a problem in terms of after-sales service. What shall I do? Do you have a contact point? Do you have a... And last but not least on that topic, I would say people always love and will always love to enter a point of sale, whatever it is, boutique, retailer, to take the watch in their hands, you know.
Yeah.
Always. E-commerce was born during the COVID crisis as an alternative to run the business, to compensate. But finally, this, except if you sell very low-priced watches, which is okay, but for upper prices, no.
I totally agree, and I've noticed that, and I've said this many times, we live in an internet-first world with watches where people might learn about a brand or a model on the internet first, may develop an interest in it, but ultimately there needs to be some type of real-world element. They have to see it on someone's wrist somewhere in a shop or on a friend's wrist, but they need to see it in order to make the decision to purchase it. The people who thought that the entire sales cycle could happen online, that was a delusional fantasy.
No, Totally agree with you. Totally. You want to have it in your hands. You want the personal contact, physical contact with a person, sales guy, sales lady. You want to chat, you want to speak with an espresso beside you, and that's it. It's material connection. It's not immaterial, you know.
I also find it interesting that watches seem to be continuously made better and better and better, at least in the time that I've been in this. The average watch is so much better. The average movement performs better. The competition, which has been difficult for many people and has created the chaos that we all know, has also arguably resulted in watches that are better than they would have been. I do feel frustration at the fact that the big groups raise their prices so high, but at the lower end or at the entry level model or the micro brand, the startups, they all have still incredible values. I don't know how long it'll last, but I think that that's an amazing outcome of what we've been through is just a lot of better watches, which amazes me why people still wear vintage when watches are as good as they are today. Yeah.
The global competition when you come on that market makes that you face today populations, groups of populations, collectors, aficionados, crazy people with one model, one type of movement, who are knowledgeable more and more. You find a lot of information, a lot of comments. Oh, that small brand, fantastic watches, but when you have trouble, you want to connect someone, you have a chatbot, take care. You see what I mean? So this pushes, of course, the industry, even the small brands / companies, to be at the level of the expectations of those people, those groups. Definitely. And of course, on the side of the big groups, they have the means, resources to be up to date with the technologies today. That's it. Increasing the prices, by the way, tomorrow in the US, Patek plus 17, huh?
Let them. Let them. We'll, let them. They'll be, again, that just gives someone an opportunity to go buy something else. So maybe you're comfortable talking about this. I don't know, but you worked, internally at some of these groups for a long time, and you're a very agile person. You're someone that likes to get stuff done. You're resourceful. I always felt that you were sandwiched between sort of the outside world and these sort of rigid corporate bureaucracies and cults of personality and weird stuff. Talk about, maybe you don't need to give specific examples if you don't want to, but talk about some of the most frustrating elements at the culture at some of these groups and why it can be so self-defeating when their actual objective is to sell, beautiful luxury high-end watches. Because it seems like they have a lot of internal complexities that make that harder than it should be.
Yeah, easy to reply. The big groups, of course. The big groups. I went through Richemont on one hand, then LVMH, even if BVLGARI being part of LVMH was a little bit on the side, due to the history and let's say the core DNA of the brand. But globally, agility, independence, and speed also doesn't fit the layers of technocrats and approval levels for any simple matter. Something for me, it's personal. I mean, okay, we take a decision, action, we go. And very often, I've been frustrated, not very often, but sometimes, especially in the first group, because there it's a matter of personal politics, whatever your position is. Agility is super difficult. You always take care where you drop your feet doing something. The second group, no, I was lucky. Culturally, it's more or less the same, but due to the fact I was working with BVLGARI and with Jean-Christophe Babin, of course, because we had a very regular, frequent connections. And with Babin, you don't wait. I mean, 11 p.m. Short message. What do you think? Tomorrow, want that? We do that? Yeah, okay, we do. Basta. This I appreciate.
Decisive, yeah.
But it's the man, it's the person in that case.
So you're saying that the saviors of these big groups are these individuals who end up being decisive. So the big groups themselves definitely have a lot of issues, but what makes it worth it is that once in a while there's an individual who's able to use the power of the group to do amazing things.
Yes. Yeah, Jean-Christophe, typically. For me, it was my best years at BVLGARI with Jean-Christophe Babin. Of course, it's a matter of persons. In all my career, you know, I keep in mind a few persons who are real drivers. I remember, as an example, Pierre-Alain Blum, Ebel, when I knew him quite well. You know, Pierre-Alain Blum, beside what he did with Ebel, the brand, the success during the 70s, 80s, 90s, but he was a guy, okay, Pascal, shake hand, done. No paper, no NDA, no nothing. No, it was the contract, the hand.
Yeah.
Okay, Alain-Dominique Perrin, Cartier at that time, same. Then more recently, Babin, definitely. That's why I was saying he's the driver of this industry. You have plenty of faces around trying to, but Jean-Christophe is out of any category of those CEOs who take care of the bonus, who take care of their ass. No way.
Well, let's be fortunate or feel good that that's acknowledged, that he's given this broad oversight position of watches at LVMH, I think is a great testament to the fact that he can be recognized for that.
It is.
And it's not, you know, a couple of years ago, it was, you know, basically sort of Frederick Arnault, but, you know, he's not the type of person that has the experience or background to really do a job like that. Someone like Babin, I think is a really good position for that. And I think it's a testament to the group to give him that authority. Last question. You come from the Swiss town of Chaux-de-Fonds, which is, as anyone ever goes there, a watchmaking town. And I don't know the history of it, but my understanding is that watchmaking is really what built that town in any serious way. Like that was the primary industry of growth, right?
Yes. But it started, according to the legends and history, starting with the farmers, and you know it, during the winter time, starting to craft watch components here, movements and or cases, which were mostly sent to Geneva to be assembled there. To sum up, but it's true, it started like that, and you had the famous Daniel Jean Richard, who was from this area. The street I live here in La Chaux-de-Fonds is Rue Street Jacob / Brandt, and he was the first watchmaker in that city, and then step by step, the industry grew here. Brands, of course, but not only. There is a whole network, huge, of small, mid-sized companies, very skilled in medtech, biotech, micromechanics, A lot of such companies which are surrounding the brands being here. Some disappeared with the historical brands, and some came. Now you have in La Chaux-de-Fonds, you have Cartier watch plant, which is huge, more than 1,000 people. You have Patek Philippe, which opened a branch here in La Chaux-de-Fonds, big one. You have big developments coming. You have Tiger as well. You have Dior watches, it's here. And I even don't mention smaller brands. So all this history started with farmers during winter time, 18th century. And today, 25, you have a lot of companies connected indirectly, directly to watch industry. Which is noticeable is that we are on the French border, Franche-Comté on the other side of the river, the Doubs River, and the culture has been shared and is totally similar historically between the two places. Difference, when the quartz so-called crisis happened in the early 70s, all the French brands here, a few kilometers from here, disappeared. They all disappeared. All. Not here.
Yeah. And today, would you say that the watch industry is still the primary driver of money and jobs in La Chaux-de-Fonds?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Not only this, you have a few other very high-tech companies, dental, implants. You have one in La Chaux-de-Fonds, one close to La Chaux-de-Fonds, number one worldwide. But everything is connected to the watch industry. Many of those small, mid-sized companies, they are active with watch industry, but not only biotech, high-tech technologies, developments of specific products, because there is a know-how here which makes it possible. Some of them here work with the US NASA, for instance, making components for satellites for the NASA. So there is a very, very high level of expertise, skills in these small things, micromechanics and so on, which are surrounding the watch brands, finally.
Well, I just think that's sort of the beauty of your career and your position, that you are from this city, which is inherently tied to the watch industry. The pulse of the watch industry affects the daily life there. And it's such a fortunate thing that you are part of the external facing side of the industry, that you're speaking to people like me. You've helped bring me in your way to understand things I may have not known. And you're a true ambassador and helper of the industry. And I think that's such a lovely thing. Not all of watchmaking culture is accessible as Pascal Brandt, right? You know that, and that's why you were in such demand, is you help bring a lot of people in to tell those stories, to see that passion, because it is a bit of a naturally closed culture. Even though the irony is that to love it means you have to understand the stories. And to understand the stories, you have to go there and be welcomed, which doesn't happen if they're closed. So you, despite being there and being part of that culture, realized, hey, everyone, you're all too closed here. We need to be a little bit more open. And I think that should be really part of your enduring legacy, is to remind people that it's not enough to be proud, but you also need to be loud.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Pascal, will you please let everyone know where they can learn more about you and your work on the internet?
Oh, so anyone can find me on LinkedIn. Easy. Anyone can find me Instagram. Yes, I have an account if you want to connect. I'm not a crazy guy with Instagram, but I'm there. And I have an email address, of course, Pascal Brandt, CH, small letters, @gmail.com. Easy. Or you can find me at Parmigiani, or look on the internet. You will find me for sure.
What? Wonderful. This has been the Superlative Podcast interview with watch PR expert and true ambassador of the culture, Pascal Brandt. Pascal, thank you so much.
Thanks to you, Ariel. Bye-bye to all. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.